Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. As economic opportunities dry up for the average individual out there, thanks to all of that financial engineering and gambling done by older generations, the prospect of buying and owning a house has become increasingly rare amongst middle-class families, and renting a place is costing a larger portion of the average individual's salary. So it's not surprising that people are looking at alternatives now, and they're cutting out that one gargantuan cost in their life and becoming homeless. And so all across America, there is a growing trend amongst the young. They're forsaking the usual path of job, mortgage, retirement, and death, and just putting their entire life in an automobile. Sure, living in a car is not as cool as having a large and fancy house or even a trailer, but a metal box with wheels will give you a safe place to sleep and get you to where you need to go next. There's almost something romantic about traveling around inside of your moving house.
My parents were, this is my home.
Nah, home is where you make it.
You like to see homos naked?
Home is where you make it.
And in a galaxy like Star Wars, where there are infinite places to travel and infinite places where you can find a living, making your house or home into a mobile vehicle is an even better idea. And so today, I want to take a look at some of the best starship homes in all of Star Wars. And it's not just about how fancy and well-equipped these ships are, it's about the wonderful memories that people make inside of them. Or something like that. The Rebel Alliance really was a miracle, and that's because it was built out of thin air and missing one massive requirement that any large gathering of people will need: logistics. But somehow it just worked, and so every unit in the Rebel Alliance had to self-source their own food, shelter, ammunition, love. Even casualties had to be replaced by the individual units from whoever they could find in the battlefield. One of the most famous Rebel infantry units was the 61st Mobile Infantry, aka Twilight Company. I think this name comes from the fact that they were always one battle away of just being wiped out completely. Twilight Company took a part in the Rebel Alliance's ill-fated Mid-Rim offensive, which immediately turned into the Mid-Rim retreat. Their base of operation was a CR-90 Corvette called the THUNDERSTRIKE. The THUNDERSTRIKE was everything for the unit and transported them from battlefield to battlefield. The inside of the ship was overhauled so it could fit enough bunks for at least a good portion of the troops, along with all their food, equipment, weapons, ammunition, and vehicles. At only around 150 meters long, this was quite a cramped vessel, and so every infantry soldier on the ship had to basically share bunks with one or two other individuals. Before Twilight Company, it was still a safe place where they can lay their heads down. And so when THUNDERSTRIKE was finally destroyed on Solus, the soldiers of the 61st Mobile Infantry mourned the loss of a home. Y'all knew we had to talk about the Millennium Falcon, but instead of focusing on its ridiculous Class 0.5 hyperdrive or military-grade deflector shields, I want to look at how the Millennium Falcon served as the perfect home for everyone who owned it. The Millennium Falcon started out life like any other YT-1300F light freighter. It was designed specifically to move around freight. It was basically a tugboat for shipyards. Lando Calrissian would eventually buy the Millennium Falcon secondhand and began installing all sorts of upgrades to the ship, including extra armor panels, that hyperdrive I keep talking about, and of course, some furnishing in the interior of the ship to make it more comfortable for long-term travel. It was said that Lando even had a full closet devoted to cloaks aboard his ship. The Millennium Falcon would serve very well under Lando Calrissian, but during one very hectic escape from Imperials on Kessel, the ship would take a tremendous amount of cosmetic damage from Han Solo's erratic piloting, turning the ship into its current and more dilapidated appearance. Shortly after, the ship would change hands during a sabacc game from Lando to Han Solo. In the Millennium Falcon, Han Solo saw all of his hopes and dreams. The rogue would cherish the ship greatly and use it as his main way of earning money via smuggling, and also use it as a place to live. After all, Han Solo grew up on the streets, so I guess living in a ship of his dreams is kind of a no-brainer. While there are very few creature comforts on the Millennium Falcon, and its hyperdrive reliability was questionable at best, the Millennium Falcon still took Han Solo, Chewie, and all of their friends, and later on even Rey, Poe, and Finn, on great adventures that had a huge impact on galactic events. While the Millennium Falcon is probably the best known civilian freighter in the galaxy, there's another civilian freighter that holds a special place in my heart, and that is the EBON. While I've watched others enjoy the galaxy while riding around in the Millennium Falcon, I actually got a chance to call the EBON home when I played the terrific KOTOR games, which are, in my opinion, the best Star Wars games ever made. The EBON was a dynamic class freighter made by the Core Galaxy Systems, and in many ways it was very similar to the Millennium Falcon. It was famous all across the galaxy, had connections to the criminal underworld, and was piloted by a bunch of lovable misfits. The EBON was also believed to be one of the fastest ships in the galaxy thanks to its modified Class 1 hyperdrive. Also, like the Millennium Falcon, the ship's many compartments, secret and not secret, revolve around a central hub living room. For players with the KOTOR game, the EBON represented a safe space where you could return and socialize and catch up with all of your team members. The Ghost sort of fits in the same category as the Millennium Falcon and EBON, as in it's a very famous civilian freighter, in this case a Corellian Engineering VCX-100 that serves as a hub for a group of adventurers. Piloted by Harrison Dula, she and her team of freedom fighters were known as the Spectres. They operated underneath the command of a large rebel group known as Phoenix and were a thorn in the side of Imperial forces occupying the Lothal sector. Because life as a rebel was quite dangerous and required constant movement, the Ghost became a perfect place for the Spectres to call home. Talented Mandalorian artist and also inventor of WMD, Sabine Wren, would oftentimes spray paint the hallways with her trademark graffiti. Ezra Bridger would learn the basics of the Force from Kanan Jarrus, while the Ghost floated lazily in atmosphere. The VX-100 wasn't the biggest freighter, with only 4 private rooms on board. It wasn't the fastest either, with its Class 2 hyperdrive, but like the EBON and Millennium Falcon, it carried its crew on missions across the galaxy safely and provided them a home to live in. Unlike every other ship on this list, the HAVOC Marauder was never intended to be a home for a group of misfits. It unfortunately had to become one when Clone Force 99 deserted from the Empire. The HAVOC Marauder sort of looks like a Lambda-class shuttle, but it actually is a bit more capable and a hybrid gunship transport. Its interior is far less comfortable than some of the civilian freighters on this list, but the clones of the Bad Batch probably needed a lot less to be comfortable than most passengers. Because the HAVOC Marauder was a shuttle, it actually lacked bedrooms and only had sleeping berths. When the unit takes on young Omega, she doesn't even have a place to stay, so Wrecker creates a room for her in the rear gunner's turret. Not only is this adorable to see, the rear turret also happens to have a kick-ass view of the entire galaxy. The HAVOC Marauder might not be the home that most of us would want, but every member of the Bad Batch has pretty low expectations. Ultimately, the best place you've ever slept in is the best place you've ever slept in. The Razor Crest falls into the same category as the HAVOC Marauder. It's not really a civilian ship with designated crew quarters and creature comforts. Like the Marauder, it also is a gunship. As a matter of fact, its layout is reminiscent of a Clone Wars era LAAT gunship. But the limited room inside of the Razor Crest and its Spartan interior are not really a big problem for someone like Din Djarin. Din Djarin essentially grew up in a doomsday cult known as the Children of the Watch. They branched out from the Death Star, another pretty traditional sect of the Mandalorians. Din Djarin's personal beliefs involve never taking a helmet off in front of other people, so I'm pretty sure he can handle living in a gunship by himself. Plus, Din Djarin is kind of a loner, so there's plenty of room for one person on the ship. The Razor Crest is basically a bachelor pad. Even though there is room for a sleeping compartment behind the cockpit, it looks like Din Djarin stores his bounties there, usually frozen in carbonite. Below the deck is where he stores whatever goods he's shipping and, of course, his weapons locker. The Razor Crest unfortunately gets destroyed on Tython by a turbo laser, but I'm sure Din Djarin will always remember his faithful ship, which was the closest thing to home that he's ever had. So there you have it, guys. Those are 6 different ships which I think make excellent homes for galaxy exploring. I sure would love to one day own a ship and travel amongst the stars. Let me know in the comment section below which one is your favorite and why, and also let me know of any other ships that I've missed that should be on this list. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.